News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Nathan Hager.
And I'm Karen Moscow.
Karen, we begin with the latest on the takeover battle for Warner Brothers Discovery. It is a battle now, with Paramount Skydance launching a hostile takeover bid for Warner Brothers, backed by banks, billionaires, and sovereign wealth funds. The move comes just days after Warner's agreed to a deal with Netflix. The Paramount offer stands at $30 a share in cash, compared with Netflix's cash and stock bid of just under $28 per share. President Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner is participating in the Paramount bid. The president has downplayed his involvement, saying he's not close to either Paramount or Netflix.
I know the companies very well. I know what they're doing. We have to see the Netflix percentage of market, Paramount, the percentage of market. I mean, none of them are particularly great friends of mine.
President Trump spoke from the White House. Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos says he expected Paramount's bid.
Today's move was entirely expected. We have a deal done, and we are incredibly happy with the deal. We think it's great for our shareholders. We think it's great for consumers. We think it's a great way to create and protect jobs in the entertainment industry. We're super confident we're going to get it across the line and finish. So we're excited.
Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos spoke at the UBS Global Media and Communications Conference in New York. Paramount wants to buy all of Warner Brothers, while Netflix is seeking only the Hollywood studios, HBO, and the streaming business. Shares of Warner Brothers Discovery in the pre-market up 1.6%.
Let's turn to the chip space now, Nathan. President Trump has granted Nvidia permission to ship its H200 artificial intelligence chip to China in exchange for a 25% cut of the sales. The decision marks a major lobbying win for Nvidia and could let it regain business lost in the Chinese market. Bloomberg's Wendy Benjaminson has more from Washington.
So now Trump, who is the most transactional president I think we've had in a long time, is looking at this purely from a business perspective. He is looking at this as the U.S. will get a 25% cut out of this tremendous market that Nvidia is going into. Nvidia gets the win. Apparently, the other companies, AMD and Intel, will as well, presumably also with a cut to the United States.
And Bloomberg's Wendy Benjaminson reports that President Trump says the sales would only go to, quote, approved customers. And checking shares of Nvidia, they're up 0.25% this morning.
Well, in Europe, Karen, the European Union is investigating Google over fears it may have abused its dominance by using its own artificial intelligence tools to squeeze out competition. The EU watchdog will examine whether the Alphabet unit distorted competition by imposing unfair terms on content creators and giving its own AI model an advantage over rivals. This fresh EU probe follows September's $3.5 billion fine against Google, where it was accused of favoring its own ad tech over rivals. That provoked President Trump's ire. He slammed the EU fine as discriminatory.
Meanwhile, Nathan, President Trump says he plans to sign an executive order on artificial intelligence. He says it'll establish one rule for regulating the technology, not multiple rules from all 50 states. And Bloomberg's Mike Shepard has more from Washington.
The federal government has not enacted its own AI-specific rulemaking or law so far. Even, 3+ years after the genesis of ChatGPT, and even after we've been talking about artificial intelligence for many years more than that, we still do not have a comprehensive set of federal regulations and rules to set the rules of the road.
And Bloomberg's Mike Shepard says the forthcoming order marks the latest bid by President Trump to put his imprint on AI policy. Well,
the president continues to put his imprint on trade policy, Karen. He is now warning he could impose new tariffs on Canadian fertilizer and Indian rice. The president issued that warning at a White House event where he announced billions of dollars in assistance for farmers.
When they take like fertilizer out of the country, all of a sudden we don't do it anymore. And then they start charging and sending the, very high prices from other countries, whether it's Canada or somebody else. We're not going to let that happen.
President Trump says the U.S. doesn't need Canadian fertilizer, but Canada is America's biggest supplier of potash. As for rice, India is the world's biggest exporter, but the U.S. sells more of its rice abroad than it brings in. Most of the rice it buys is from Thailand.
Well, Nathan, let's turn to geopolitics now and the grinding effort to end the war in Ukraine. President Volodymyr Zelenskyy met yesterday with the leaders of the UK, France, and Germany. He says they agreed to keep working on security guarantees, a signal that there is still no breakthrough toward a peace agreement with Russia. But European leaders may be getting closer to a deal on using frozen Russian assets to back a loan for Ukraine, as we hear from Bloomberg's Oliver Crook in Brussels.
if they are able to get this over the line, this would account basically 90 billion euros worth of funding for Ukraine over the next period of time. As you say, that goes about 2/3 of the way of covering the funding that they require for running the country and running the military, which is about 135 billion. So that would be a major step.
And Bloomberg's Oliver Crook reports European leaders are sounding more confident they can reach an agreement by Christmas or even as soon as this week. And they'll meet in Brussels next week to try to seal the deal. And that's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Karen Moscow.
I'm Nathan Hager, and this is Bloomberg.